Okay, I think it's now recording. Yeah, it is recording. So let's see. Let's start. Let's get into JavaFX. JavaFX is very interesting. Hey, it's nice. There's a lot of things you can do here. So, a bit about Java, right? Let me see if I this thing of having new windows every. Yeah, I'm the most confused person ever. I'm always changing operating systems. So what do I need? Notepad plus plus. Uh, so the the main thing about JavaFX is just for you to make desktop and mobile applications. You can make mobile applications with JavaFX, but there's certain tools you'd have to use to convert it to so that it can run on your iPhone or on your Android phone. So let me install this. It should install pretty fast. Okay, done. So let's see. Okay, create a new text file and then zoom. Okay, so when Java was made, right? When Java was made, it came bundled with something we call AWT. It was the same for it was the same as JavaFX. The only difference was that it had bugs and things like that. It tend to have system specific bugs, like on a certain operating system, whether it's an Android or iOS or MacBook, whatever you are running that AWT application on, it would generate some bugs. So this was called AWT, just stands for Abstract Windows Toolkit. If you check a textbook, it should be there. It explains this whole history and stuff. It's just a short paragraph, yeah. So it came bundled with AWT, right? Abstract Windows Toolkit. And remember what I said, it had issues, it had bugs. Imagine you're trying to open WhatsApp, right? And then you're trying to send someone a picture, right? And then it mistakenly sends a video and told me to that video as a personal video, something like that. So it's like those unexpected issues or errors, or sometimes you're trying to run the app and it just switches off on its own. So that's the problem. That was one of the problems with AWT. And then they introduced something called Swing to replace AWT, right? It's called Swing. It's still there, but it's a bit outdated. So Swing it became better. It was a better version of Abstract Windows Toolkit, but then it also didn't. In terms of the improvements and everything, it didn't keep up with the latest technologies, right? Remember now we started having smartphones and things like that touch if we started also having laptops whereby you can touch it as touch screen features, things like that. Started having AI, augmented reality, all these things. So Swing couldn't necessarily keep up with that. So they after Swing, they're like, okay, let's create a brand new framework. And Swing, okay, Swing technically you could, but I think you can't do 3D in Swing. Yeah, I don't think you can do 3D if I'm not mistaken. So you can make 3D objects with in Swing. So and Swing and AWT they are very complicated to like set up and do all those things. It's very complex for especially for Java beginners, right? You're a beginner in Java. It was very complicated. So they introduced something that we call Java FX. So Java FX, you could make 2D, 3D applications with 3D, 2D, 3D graphics. You can make applications with 2D and 3D graphics, and it supported multi-touch. Basically, you can run on operating systems that have a touchscreen feature. So that means you can create a JavaFX application that runs on Android, and it also runs on iOS. So that's JavaFX, and it is easy to use and set up compared to the other ones. You might feel like, okay, yeah, it's complicated and all that. Yeah, it's actually very easy to use. So it will provide a multi-touch, 2D and 3D graphics. And what else? I think I'm leaving out some information, but you could also run it on Android and iOS, provided you use a special tool for that. Provided you use a special tool for that, for converting the Java application to run on converting the JavaFX application in order for it to run on your Android and iOS, right? So that's a bit about JavaFX. There's really nothing much to say. You can check the slides, they're also very brief, and the textbook is not that, it doesn't go into deep in terms of the history and whatnot, the differences between the three. So we will generally use JavaFX, but for some basic functionality, if your application doesn't need things like multi-touch and things like that, or 3D graphics, then you can just use Swing. But then just know Swing is a bit complicated for new Java programmers. So you would usually use Swing when you're a bit more experienced with Java and you know what you're doing, right? So that's a bit about JavaFX. So now, how do we set up JavaFX? Come on. Let me do this in my laptop. It's the way it's running. It's like it's a lot of CPU being used here. 91%. Yeah, that's crazy. 100. I think it's this Qt installer, but yeah, once that's done, it should be fine. So let's click. Let me see. Download JavaFX, right? So I won't be specific for which IDE or whatever. I'll just say download JavaFX because I want to go to the official JavaFX website. There is instructions for specific IDEs and how to set it up, right? So there's the beautiful JavaFX website, right? So we want to download the SDK, right? The software development kit, because we want to develop software in JavaFX. And there's this thing called Scene Builder, of which is very useful for you creating a JavaFX application. You actually don't write the code from scratch. You don't say a new button is goes to new button, all those things. You just drag and drop. So Scene Builder is quite useful, but for you guys, they really don't want you to use this yet. You can use it maybe when you're in your final year, because you still do Java finally if you're a computer science major. So I'm gonna click the download section. Don't click other things. We want to download the JavaFX. So it's loading. Damn, when is this thing gonna finish? My CPU is moving a bit too much. So there's the website, and they said you should use 21, right? Version 21, this one. So you're gonna scroll down and you're gonna see this section here, the download section, right? So first things first, you need to choose the Java version, but for some weird reason it's not allowing me. So why is it doing this now? So let me just say include older version. Why is it doing that? Interesting. Now let me see. It's supposed to show. Okay, let's go back here. Maybe there's something that I didn't do right. Let me see. Where's the download button now? Because okay, this is just a reference when we want to set up our JavaFX application. It should be here. Okay. Hey, this thing is, you see, it was taking its time. So there's the different version. Okay, I think it was still loading. So the ones that we want, right? The version that we want the latest stable version. You see, when it says LTS, long-term support, it means like it's like the stable version. There's gonna be less new additions, or let me not say addition, less new features added. The only thing that they'll change is maybe a function. Instead of you calling it get row, it's now called get something else. So it's like a stable version. The reason why we use this LTS version, right, is because when you're developing an application for a client, you don't want it to keep crashing because now the functions that you're using were deprecated, or they were no longer in use in that version, since Java is now a new version. So you rather choose the stable version. This is like a complete version. It's like it's really complete now. The only thing updates that they're gonna add is just for speed, things like that. So we want the latest, which is 21.0.3, and then operating system. If you scroll up a bit, operating system. So what operating system are we installing it on? It depends on your operating system, but for most, and I'm sure they did emphasize it, that you guys should be using Windows, but it's fine if some people are built like that. They know Linux. If you're using Linux or Mac OS, then yeah, you would have to follow you know how to install apps on that specific operating system. I use Windows, so I'm gonna click on Windows, and then architecture. I use an x64, right? It depends on how do you check what version you're using, right? You just click the Windows icon and then you search what do you search? About your PC, right? Which shows information about your PC. I mean, duh, self-explanatory. So you're gonna look at the system type. You see the system type, it says 64-bit. Yours can say it's 32. It's up to you. So it's up to your operating system. So I'm gonna choose the x64 based processor because I'm using an x64. So I just click here x64, and then the type, I think we want the SDK. Yeah, the software development kit. And then once you're done with all these options, you should see one install, one row for installation, right? And then you just click the download button, and then done. And then you wait for it to download. Okay, it's not that big. So I'm gonna close here, and then I'm gonna open getting started. I'm gonna go back to the main JavaFX website, and then I'm gonna click on getting started with JavaFX, because it tells you how to set up your IDE. So you actually don't need the slides. You just need to go to the website, and then depending on your operating system, then you set it up based on your operating system. So I'm gonna extract this. So extract all. Okay, it's extracting, and then we are using Eclipse. For people using Visual Studio Code, there's people who just want problems in their lives. You use Visual Studio Code, then you should follow this instruction. If you use Eclipse, cool. If you use NetBeans, cool. If you use IntelliJ, cool. The reason why I'm saying Visual Studio Code, because there's a lot of things you add. You need to also add an extension so that the run button can even show. So that's why I'm saying, if you're using Visual Studio Code, you be a better programmer. But I'm just saying, as a beginner, you shouldn't be using tools that requires you to be installing packages and stuff. So yeah. So we have the instructions here. So what I would do is I'll save after it is unzipped, right? As it is. Remember, the batch file is it's named exactly this way. That's why it's also important to choose the right version. If you choose version 22 or 17, JavaFX 17 or Java 17, trust me, your batch file is not going to run. So that you should be very careful with the versions that you're installing. So I'm going to cut this and go to the C drive, to your drive, could be the D drive, whatever that drive is. I'm going to paste it here, right? And then I'm going to go inside of it, go inside the bin folder like this, and then click at the top here, and then it's going to select that whole path, because I need to set the environment variables. And then I'm going to click Control C to copy, right? And then I'm gonna close this, and then I'm gonna click the Windows icon, and then I'm gonna type environment, just environment, and then it should show edit system environment variables, and then press enter, and then click on environment variables, and then we need to go under system variables, and then we go under path. We click for the path because that's where we set the path. Why, you might ask, right? It's a very important question to ask, like, why are we doing all of this, right? So let me show you. If I open PowerShell, right, and I type what is this? I type okay, let's open Notepad, and I type Notepad, and I press enter. What's going to happen is Java, what is this, Windows or that operating system is going to look for the path. So if you didn't set the path, you don't know how to locate and open that specific program, right? So if I press enter, you see it opens Notepad because the path has been set. The location of where this tool can be found has been set, or this program, right? Same applies for any other thing. It could be, I think Teams should be fine. Okay, it's already open. My team's already open, but yeah, you get the point. So it's very important to set the environment variable so that it knows where to locate and find your things that you've downloaded, right? Whether it's JavaFX or Java, you need to set the environment variables, and then just click OK and then close. And then okay, so this section explains how to create a JavaFX application in Eclipse, blah, blah, blah. So they said you should make sure you set your Java home, right? Which is the path. If you open this, it should show you how to set the path and everything. You see, in order for it to show this information, it's because you set the path. So if I run my CMD right now or PowerShell, I can type Java. Okay, let me use this. Come on. Okay, I can type Java right here, and then I type version. And then how does it know that, okay, I have Java installed? Because I set the path. So we need to make sure you set the path, and even on the JavaFX website, it even tells you should set the path. So I'm just gonna exit this terminal. Okay, it's fine. So refer to what, and then include the new JDK as Eclipse, blah, 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 Java, install JREs, add, blah, blah. We don't really need to do all of that. The most important thing we need to do is here, non-modular project, right? So this is the actual JavaFX part where we're setting the JavaFX. So they say download the appropriate Java SDK software development kit, right? It has all the tools we need to do JavaFX software development, right? Or to do software development with JavaFX. So that's why we download the SDK, because we want to develop software. Come on, I don't want to open. So create a user library, right? So you go into Eclipse under window, but let's follow those instructions. So I'm going to open my Eclipse, and then it's going to load. Build path, user libraries, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay, let's wait for it to load. Okay, this thing is almost done. Why is it? Okay. Okay, why is it doing this now? Okay, let me. Why is it doing that? It's fine. So exclude IDE from being that, and then close. So I'm going to create a Java application, right? Or Java program project. Why is it opening many things? So Java, we're gonna call it introduction to. Oh, I'm just gonna put an underscore to Java FX, right? And then just make sure you don't click. You see this part, create module info.java. unselect it, because if you select it, you're gonna face a lot of serious issues. So click next, and then there's nothing else that we want to do here, and then we click finish. You could from the get-go just click finish, it's one and the same thing. So what we want to do is to set up JavaFX, right? So we're gonna go here, and then you're gonna see that inside Eclipse, right? We're gonna click on the window part. There's the window, and then we go under preferences, right? Under preferences, we should choose, I think we should choose Java. Yeah, we should choose Java because we are setting it up for Java, right? For the Java language. And then click the greater than symbol so that I can see more options under the Java section. And then I click the build path. I can just double click it because I want to see what's underneath the build path. And then I click under user libraries. And then I create a new user library, right? And then I'm gonna give it a name because I'm setting up for JavaFX. I'm gonna call it JavaFX. It's 21.0.3. That's the version of JavaFX that I want to set up, right? I'm putting the version just so that I remember what version it is, but you don't need to put the version. You can just say JavaFX, and then I'm gonna click OK, and then I think you should click on Add External JAWS. User library is new, and then you see that's what we did. We created a new user library like this. This person is using a Mac, so that's why it's a bit different. And then name it JavaFX and include the jars under the lib folder, right? So how do you do that? You click the new user library that you've added, that you've created, and then click Add External Jars. And then you locate your JavaFX. That's why we saved it under C drive, so that's also easier to locate. There's the JavaFX. So you select everything under the lib or the library folder. Double click, and then you're just gonna select everything that's there, right? And then click open, and then boom, there's everything that we need. We're still not done yet. I need to add the source attachment. Let me see if they do talk about it here. Damn, they don't. Yeah, that's the part that you need to add. So I'm gonna, for each of these things, right? Let me show you. So for each of these libraries that I've added, I need to tell the computer where the source code is found, or the source attachment. So under source attachment, I'm gonna double click, and then I'm gonna say external location, right? It's an external location. And then I'm gonna click under external file, and then within the same JavaFX folder, I'm gonna click the source.src.zip folder, and then click open. And then since I want to repeat this for all the other libraries, I'm just gonna select it and say press Control C to copy. Instead of locating it, I'm just gonna paste that location. And then go to the next one, source attachment, external location, Control V, okay. And then the next one, source attachment, Control V, and then okay. And then source attachment, external location, Control V, okay. And then we do the same thing. I'm not gonna be redundant and keep saying the same thing. Okay. And then boom. Oof, it's a lot. So there we go. We have everything created. So I'm just gonna click apply and close like this, right? So I've created a library, right? So that library, every time I create a JavaFX application, I need to include it. That's why we are setting it up so that I don't keep setting it up for every new project. I just add it to my current project. So what I will do is I will right click on my project and then say go under build path, right? Because I want to add a library under build path, and then I'm going to click on the section add libraries. And we just defined a library, and we defined what we call a user library. So I'm going to click under user library and then click next. And then there's the JavaFX library we've created. So I'm going to cancel for now and then just create a main, right? So let's create a main class, and it's going to use the default package, and it must have a main function. And then done. Okay, and then I'm gonna minimize everything so that you guys can see my screen. Since we're no longer using the terminal, so I don't need to show I don't need to pin my terminal down there. So there's the application, right? There's our main class. So one important rule about any JavaFX application, right, is that with any JavaFX application, any JavaFX application, right? Any JavaFX application, so this is one of the things you must do. In order for the application to make use of Java, in order for it to use JavaFX, the class must inherit. It must inherit from JavaFX.application.application class, right? Remember when you guys learned about packaging, this is just a package. The actual class is this one. So it must inherit from the application class, right? I'm just writing it in full because that's how it was stated in your textbook. So there's everything. There's the first rule, I mean. And then the second rule is that it must override a start method, right? There's a start method that takes in a stage, right? And then it must also use the launch static function. Static function. It's a static function. Remember static functions, right? Or anything that's static. It's part of the class. It's not part of the instance. So that means I don't need to create an instance in order to call it or to use it. That's why it's called static. So static basically means, remember that, okay, now I'm about to go into a bit of C++, because I learned this thing. I finally understood the real meaning behind static because I was reading the C++ textbook. So static basically what it means is that the allocated, you don't reallocate memory every time the function is called, right? Or every time that variable is called. What happens is that the allocated memory, the memory is allocated once and is maintained throughout the lifespan of the application. So that means as long as the application is running, the static thing will be allocated memory once, and then you just keep reusing it. So that's why we always use the analogy of saying that something that's static is basically saying that it's shared amongst all instances. So that's why I always use the example of you sharing a piggy bank with your best friend or someone who's close to you, and then instead of you guys having your own version of the piggy bank, you buy one that you share. So basically, it means that memory is allocated once, right? And then you share that thing. Whatever changes you made, it also affects the other person. So if me and you are best friends and we bought the same piggy bank and we put in money into the piggy bank, if I put in 200 rands, right, that means you also have 200 rands. You get what I'm saying? So if we are sharing that one thing or that one method, one variable, whatever changes I make, it affects all instances of that class. Since the memory is shared or is allocated once in the application, right? So it's gonna use a static function, and remember the way you can call a static things or static functions is you first put in the name of the class dot followed by the name of the function, and remember you need to put brackets, round brackets like this to denote that this is a function. If it's a void function and it takes in no parameters, this would be the case. So that's so for launch function, right? Remember, it's part of, remember we're inheriting from application class. So what's the name of the class? It's application. And then what's the function we want to use is launch. And then the launch function just takes in a string. So we're just gonna pass in the command line arguments like this. So this is how we launch the JavaFX application. So this can be substituted with just writing it like this, just saying launch. You don't need to write it in full. You can just write launch. Either way, it's gonna work. So yeah, this is one of this is the three conditions that must be met in order for the Java application to work, right? So let me see. Okay, this is done. I just want to close this thing. Okay, yeah. So there's the JavaFX application. So let me do this. So draw.io. Right. So I just want to explain and actually the way JavaFX works, right? It uses basically it uses let me just say the Java coordinate system, right? If you remember the Cartesian plane in maths, Cartesian plane in maths, right? So if I go under images, there's the Cartesian plane, right? So let me see. Okay, I want this one. This one should be fine. Yeah, there's the Cartesian plane. So with the Cartesian plane, this is the y-axis, right? And then this is the x-axis. So what happens in Java, right? The way you display or use the JavaFX feature, right, is that you can sort of picture it in the sense that it only uses the fourth quadrant. So that means it starts at 0, 0, and it goes down like this, and it starts at 0, 0, and it goes down that side. So we're only making use of the fourth quadrant, right? So just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna say device. There's a lot of things you really need to understand before you can start coding the JavaFX application. And then when you code the JavaFX application, it's also something else. So okay, yeah, we did explain the Cartesian plane, right? So this is how it works. So let's say you wanted to add a button, right? And you wanted to add the button inside this section here. Inside the section here, right? You specify that, remember the way it's viewed, this would be the height. And then this would be the width, which x would represent, the width would be represented by the x-axis, and then the height will be represented by the y-axis, because I mean y is vertical, right? And then x is horizontal. So x would represent the width, y would represent the height. So if I wanted to say place it inside this top left corner, I think even your computers, if you look at, you see this corner here, even the computers, I think they use the same coordinate system. Yeah, this would be this point here, the corner would be 0, 0. And then going like this to that side, that would be the x-axis. And then going downward vertically, that would be the y-axis, width and height. So just keep that in mind when you start doing the applications. Okay, I don't think I need to use, okay, I'll use draw.io when it comes to placing the buttons on, or placing the things on the on the on the pane. You will get to understand the panes and stuff and everything. So when you create a JavaFX application, right? So let me show you. Okay, remember we said that one of the conditions in order for you to use a Java application, right? You need to make sure that you inherit from JavaFX.application class, right? Which is the application class. So I don't need to, there's many ways you can write it. It's up to you. You can write it like this, JavaFX.application. Okay, it's not showing. Okay, it's not showing yet because I haven't added the library for JavaFX. So let's add the library so that it makes it easier for us to know what we're doing. And it also, it's going to show, I want it to autocomplete, right? So we're going to click the user library, and then we click next, and then we select JavaFX, the library that we created previously, and then click finish. And then JavaFX has now been added. You see, there's everything It's a lot. And then we are done. It's now gonna know what I'm talking about when I start typing things related to JavaFX. So I'm gonna say extends, right? Java, you should know. Let me see. Dot, yeah. So JavaFX dot application dot application. So you could write it like this. Don't worry, it's just complaining about me not inheriting, not overriding that start method. So there you could write it like this, or you could just do this, because this is not how you actually write Java applications. This is just cumbersome. It's untidy. So you write it like this, right? And then you would say import. You actually use imports, but look at it. It's still the same thing, but it's easy to read now, because now I know, oh, this is application class and this is main. So main inherits from application class, or it extends application class. So I need to add a start method, right? So remember, when you override something, when we did talk about overriding, right? When you override something, you need to add the @override annotation. So @override annotation, right? And we're overriding I think it's a void function called start, right? And it takes in a stage, primary stage, like this. And then it should stop complaining at me. And also be careful when you're importing, right? Because there's also, remember AWT. You see, if I scroll down here, I can see about AWT, and don't include the wrong things. Trust me, no matter how much someone wants to help you, if you imported the wrong package, they can't help you. So you need to make sure everything that you import, it's prefixed with JavaFX. It's a mandatory that you pay attention to to that information. So if okay, it's not okay, let's see. Okay, I can only increase. Okay, it's fine, but I'm sure you can see my screen. So if I do this and you see it's JavaFX, right there. So I'm choosing this one because I'm working with JavaFX. So I'm gonna say import, and then you see it stops moaning at me. Everything is fine. And then I'm gonna delete this comment. So we have all of this. We've fulfilled the first two conditions, right? Yeah, start method and inheriting. So let's talk about, okay, I'm gonna need the draw.io now. So let's talk about how JavaFX works, right? So it uses the theater sort of like analogy, right? So anything that you place, it's placed on what we call a stage, and each stage has a scene, right? So everything you write in JavaFX is placed on a stage. The stage is usually called primary stage. It's usually called the primary stage. And then each stage has scenes, right? Um, each stage, each stage has a scene, right? Has a scene. And then we know that each scene has actors, right? Each scene has actors, and those actors is basically, these are your panes, and then this is UI. There's also UI control, and remember, UI control is basically text, things like text field, buttons. That's what we call UI control, right? And then, yeah, this is the analogy that you need to look at. So I need to explain something that you need to really understand very well. So I'm gonna change this. Okay, I don't like that color. Let's use orange, right? So this is what we would call a stage, right? So the outermost layer, or the first layer, this is what we call a stage, right? This is a stage, and that stage, it has a scene, right? So within the stage, we need to add a scene. So I'm gonna do this. And then usually what happens is that the stage is gonna is gonna, what is this? It's going to resize itself based on the scene, the stage. It's gonna resize itself based on the size of the, or the stage is gonna resize itself based on the size of the scene. Hey, so cool. I'm gonna name this. This is a scene, right? So remember what he said. Each stage has a scene, and each scene has actors, panes. It has actors, right? And these actors can be a pane or a UI control. And remember pane, right? Pane, and I don't mean pane from even for those who get it. I don't mean pain from Naruto. I mean the pain, P-A-N-E. So pain, what basically means is it's for displaying the display. It's for what is it called? What's the actual term? But it's for displaying things like UI control, like text fields, buttons, and things like that. It's mainly useful for displaying those things. That's a pane, right? There's different panes. There's border pane. I think border has the top, left, and the right and bottom. And then we have the grid pane, which views everything in terms of rows and columns, of which you are familiar with. And then there's the flow pane. And then there's a lot. There's just a lot. That's why I say JavaFX is just too broad. It's a lot. Oh, and also I forgot to say shapes. Also shapes. So each scene has a pane, a UI control, and the UI control is basically like a button. It's a button or text field, and you can also add shapes to the scene, right? The reason why it's structured this way, right? You might ask yourself, why do we have to structure it in this way? Shouldn't we just add everything onto the stage? I'll show you right now the problem with doing that. If you add everything to the stage, what happens is that automatically it's going to, okay, if you add, remember you need to add everything to the scene, right? So if you add something to the scene, we're gonna realize that it's actually not quite not, it's not a very useful thing to do. We'll get to that. So let me choose a different color. Okay, what about this one? Okay, they're just two alike. Okay, let me just do this then. Okay, that's a bit different. So there's the scene, and then within the scene, that's when you can start displaying the things now. So that's when I can add my button here. So let's say this button is called, okay, I need to give it a color. Let's make it blue. So let's say this button is, okay, I can just copy this. And then let's say this button is called grid user, right? That's what that button is called. So this is how it would look. This is always the procedure that you're gonna follow, right? And remember the coordinate system, right? It uses the fourth quadrant. So it's starting at the top left corner, it's 0, 0. So if you look at the scene, right, at this top left corner there, you see this top left corner here, it's 0, 0. And remember what I said, the stage is going to resize itself based on the size of the scene. Because, yeah, it actually makes sense, right? Because remember, when you go to the theater, right, and there's a performance, right? Based on the size of the scene or the number of actors, right, it's going to determine how big the stage is going to be, right? If you have 1 million people or actors at once, obviously the stage is going to be big because the scene is going to be, it's going to have a lot of actors. So that's what I'm saying. The size of the stage is usually going to be determined by the size of the scene. So remember, this top left corner is going to be 0, 0. And if you're going to see the issue of displaying directly to the scene, right? Remember, this is me just displaying the button directly to the scene. We're gonna see the problem with doing that. So let's actually start, right? So remember, you need to launch, and remember I said it takes in the command line, the string, an array of strings, which is the command line arguments, right? So there's many ways you can call this function, right? You can say application dot launch. You see, it takes in an array of strings, and then you're just gonna pass args, right? This is to launch the Java application, JavaFX application. Or you can just omit the name of the class like this. These are two ways of doing it. I'm just gonna leave it as just launch, or just leave it as this, that you actually know that launch belongs to that class and it's a static method because I didn't create any, there's no new keyword here, right? So I know that this is a static method. So let's get to the stage, right? So the way you add this thing, or the way you do this JavaFX, right? It's pretty straightforward if you understand the procedure and the design philosophy behind JavaFX. Like this is always this case: stage, scene, actors, and the actors you can have many actors, you can have many buttons. So let me show you the problem with just adding things directly to the scene, right? So remember, we already have this stage. It's already there. So I don't need to declare it. So what I need to declare now is the button, right? The button, this button that I'm going to add. So I'm going to say button. And remember, this is why I don't know why students don't take things seriously, but yeah, it's a bad habit of students. But I did discuss this thing in the introduction to Java, that anything that begins with an uppercase letter in Java is referred to as a class. So I can already tell that this is a button class. So since it's a class, I know there's methods, getters and setters, all those things, they are there. So button, and I'm gonna call it btn grid, right? Is equals to new button. And you can see that it's accompanied by the keyword new. And then I need to import. Like I said, be very careful of how you are importing, because trust me, it's not gonna end well. It's not gonna end well for you. It's not gonna end well. Come on. Yeah. So if you look at this thing, right? Come on, show. If you look at this thing, you see there's the first button belongs to java.awt. Remember, AWT is the abstract Windows toolkit, which is the first version, the first, let me not say the first version, the first approach to creating applications. Let me just call it the applications with buttons, because I feel like it's easier for you guys to picture it in that way. So, because if I say desktop applications, some might get, some might not. So, just if any application has things like buttons, images, and what, there's JavaFX with AWT. So the first one that came bundled with Java was AWT, right? Abstract Windows Toolkit. So we are working with JavaFX, so don't include the wrong things. That's why I was saying be careful with how you're importing. Don't just be importing for the sake of importing. Your code is gonna crash, and there's nothing that your peers or the lecturer can do if you'd fail to understand what you're doing, because they told you that you're doing JavaFX. So this is the one that I want, JavaFX.scene.control. And you see it's part of control. It's a UI control, as we've discussed. UI controls, things like buttons, text field, all those things. And then I'm gonna click there. I'm gonna click that, and then I'm gonna close the magnifier, and then I've instantiated a button, right? So now I have the button. But then the problem is that this button has no text, it has nothing. This button has nothing. So in order for me to add all those extra things, it's a lot. JavaFX is a lot. That's why I'm saying this. I can't possibly teach you everything in one video, or even multiple. I can't. It's a lot. So let's say I want to set the text, right? So I'm gonna call a function btn grid.set text, right? It sets the text for the button. So I'm gonna say the button is called grid, right? And then that's all. I'm not gonna do any fancy things, any extra things, right? And then remember, That's why I'm saying this. You need to understand this. So the button is within a what, a scene, and the scene is within a what, a stage. So since we have the button, we need to add it to the scene. So we need to add the actor to the scene, right? So, because remember each scene has an act. So I need to instantiate a scene. So scene is equals to, yeah, you need to be very patient. I know some of you guys, hey, there's people who just don't take themselves serious. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I know some of you are already are gonna skip this video, and it's not gonna look good when you're doing the prac and all your peers in the group chat, they're already done with the practical, and you're just sitting there looking stupid because you didn't decide to take yourself serious. You didn't watch the whole video, and you didn't pay attention to the difference between importing, and you're gonna import things from AWT. It's not looking good, bruv. So we're gonna import the scene, right? And be very careful. Make sure it's prefixed with JavaFX. JavaFX. Don't import spiritual things here. So I'm gonna import, and then there's the scene, right? So the scene takes in 3 arguments, right? It takes in a node, and it takes in is it? I think it's a width and a height, or height and the width. forgot those differences, but I think it's like this: width, yeah, width and height. It takes in these 3 things, right? And then a node can be anything. A node can be a pane or a UI control, or a shape, right? So let's write it down. So a node can be a shape, a UI control, or a pane, right? And pane, remember, it's just for you. You know, things like panes, right? It's just to help you display in a way your things in the right way. For example, patterns, they are aligned together and things like that. It's just a way for you to display your shapes and your UI controls. So this is what a node takes in. And remember, a shape can be a circle. There's a polyline in Java, and there's also a rectangle class to add the rectangle to the node, right? We'll do that. We'll get to that. And then I'll just do a simple shape. And then there's also UI controls. These are your buttons, text field, and then there's also text area, etc. There's a lot. I can't possibly go through all of them. Pane, there's border pane, there's GridPane, there's a lot. So these are all the things that we would call a node. So it always takes in things like that. And it can also take in a parent, right? The structure can also be a parent. Why are we saying a parent, right? Let me show you why we're saying a parent. Because we're saying it's a parent because instead of putting the button directly to the scene, right? We put the button using okay, there's also, I forgot to add for the border water, there's also the VB box and H box, except there's a lot. So on the scene, right, we want to display, let's say we want to display the buttons in terms of rows and columns. Would use the grid pane, right? So within the scene, would add another thing called grid pane because we want the buttons to be aligned in a specific way. So we'd add a grid pane here. So within the grid pane, that's when we'd add the button. Okay. Okay, it's just decided to do its own things. So I'm gonna add the button again, copy, and then, so this is what we want to achieve, right? We can add all of this. Don't worry, we can do we can make it look exactly like this. Don't worry about that. So we'll get all the extra features like colors, background, all those things. So there's the button, and then this would be my pane, right? A tool that I use to display my shapes or my UI controls, right? So this will be the grid pane, right? We do it in terms of rows and columns, so it'll be like this. or a what is that thing called? I forgot. I think it's a flow pane, if I'm not mistaken. There's one where it automatically puts it at the center. I forgot what it's called. Okay, not what I expected. Yeah. So it's like this, right? So we have the stage and then we have the scene. For the scene, we don't want to put the button directly. We'll explain. I'll show you why we don't want to do that. So instead of doing that, we put a parent, right? Something that it's gonna have a parent, and then it's gonna be called the child. So that's also another terminology you need to understand. If something is on top of or is included inside of something else, we call that it's a child of that thing. And then that thing that's storing this thing that we are putting it into, we'll call that the parent. Look at GridPane. It stores the button, right? So GridPane is the parent for this button, and the button is a child for that GridPane. So that's also another terminology you need to understand. I feel like it should be straightforward because you did inheritance, you did object-oriented programming. You did, terms like encapsulation, polymorphism, abstraction, inheritance, aggregation, composition, all those terms. So here we're actually talking about inheritance because we're talking about parent and child, super and subclass. So the button is part of this grid pane. So that button will be a child of that GridPane, and GridPane will be the parent, which is the mother, the father of that button. So that's the logic, that's the design philosophy. You need to understand it. So for now, we're not going to use the parent. We're not going to use nodes. We're not going to use we were using nodes. We're not going to use what is this thing panes to display. I'm going to place the button directly on the scene. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just showing you what's the problem with doing so. So I'm going to say, what's the button that I want to add? It's BTN grid, right? There we go. And then I want my scene to be, I want it to be a bit bigger, but not too big. Let's say 350, that's the width, and then 350, that's the height. And then there we go. We have instantiated the scene, right? Now we need to add the scene to the stage. Remember, the stage is the parent of the scene because the scene is part of the stage. So I need to add the scene to the stage. So I'm going to say primary stage dot set. There's a function called set scene. Set scene, which takes in the scene. If you don't set the scene, nothing's going to show in your code, right? It's not set sense. Hey, it's a whole set scene. And then I'm gonna what's good. Let's run the application, right? Okay, it's not gonna work because there's other settings. Yeah, there's something we need to fix. Let's fix that for now and try to run it. Let me show you. You might think, this guy is just making things up. Let's try to run it. And then you'll be like, oh, why is my code not running? Well, you're actually not done setting up JavaFX. And this setting that I'm about to add right now, you need to add it in every JavaFX application you create. I know it's annoying, but yeah. So if you scroll down here and you see they use Eclipse, you see, and look, it's exactly the same way we did it. It's just that this one uses FXML, of which your lecturers are not quite fond of that since you are still beginners. It's not gonna end well. They won't like they won't like you doing that. Don't use things like FXML. We'll get to that. I can show you how to do that. So there's the thing, you see, there's the error. Java runtime components are missing and they are required to run this application. So we are missing JavaFX runtime components. So if you look at the error shown, JDK launcher checks that extends. If that's the case, it is required to have the JavaFX.graphics module on the module path, right? So we need to set the path. This is the URL to set the path. But then remember here in this part, you set it based on where you've saved it on your operating system. So we're gonna need to locate that. So what I'm gonna do is, let me see. Let me see. Should we? Okay, let me. Okay, we could do that. We most certainly could do that, but for the sake of making this tutorial simple and straightforward, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use this one. So copy this. Won't use the other method. This one, I know this method where you create variables. So we're not gonna use that method. So we're gonna use this one and copy that thing at the top. And then we go to run, and then go under run configurations, and then go under arguments, right? We want the virtual machine arguments, we want to set them. And then here you need to set the actual path, the location of your JavaFX libraries, right? Where are they located? But since this is gonna be let's just do it, man. I feel like this is gonna be a long process. Every time you have to set it. So let's just save it so that we just use a variable. So let's create an environment variable. So you can run the project and blah, blah, blah. Okay, environment variable. You can replace the module path with the environment variable. What? You give it a name, right? So if you add the path to Eclipse preferences, so I need to go under preferences here. And then we've opened preferences and then run or debug. So we need to go under run or debug. I don't see what they're talking about here. Where's the run or debug? It's under preferences. Let me see. So you need to, if you add the path to, let me see, at the top, what did it say? File, okay. Eclipse, okay, so preferences under run or debug. For them, it is showing. On my side, it's not showing. Eclipse preferences run or debug. How come on theirs is showing, on mine is not? So I'm gonna say edit appearance preferences run or debug. Oh, yeah, I must be blind. There's the run or debug. After run debug, string substitution. So I need to click on the string substitution. So string substitution is pretty straightforward. It means that that string is gonna be used to substitute in anything in your Eclipse IDE, right? So I'm gonna click here and say Java FX, right? Yeah, I'm just gonna put Java FX, right? And then the value, which is the location of our SDK, right? Of our libraries, right? How do we locate them? I'm gonna click browse. And then under browse, they say they need the lib folder, right? So go to your C drive, go to the JavaFX SDK, double click on it. And then within here, click on lib because we want the location of the library, right? And then this is just gonna say that this is give it a description. You don't have to. So JavaFX library location. Then click OK. And you can also set the Java home. You can also do that. Let me see. I think we might just need it. Let me see. Okay, let's not worry about that. We don't really need it. So I'm just gonna say apply and close, right? So that I don't keep typing and having to locate JavaFX, or I just use that string variable, right? So there's the value, location, and everything, right? And then I need to go back up and copy this thing again. So module path. If you don't set it up like this, your application is not gonna run. Trust me, because this is on the official website for JavaFX on how to run it. And then instead of, let's do this. And then instead of this path, right? we have the path inside. We've created a string substitution, right? So we can use that string to substitute to add the locate to put the location of the JavaFX libraries, right? You're gonna put a $sign, if I'm not mistaken, and then 2 curly braces. Within the curly braces, you write the string that you've created inside Java, which we called it Java underscore fx. So that string, this is just gonna get the value of the string. That $sign and curly braces is just gonna go get the string, the value of that string within JavaFX, within Eclipse, and then it will add all those things. So let me close, and then I think everything should suffice now, and then try running it again, and then we should. Okay, that it didn't run, and then run it again. What's going on? Oh, yeah. I forgot that I wanted to demonstrate something. Yeah. So I wanted to demonstrate something important, right? So the launch function, right? All it does is launches, but then it doesn't show you the stage. So if you want the stage to show, after setting the scene, you just need to say primary stage dot show to show the stage so that the user can see the stage. And then after running it like this, and then boom, magic, right? We've built our first JavaFX application. So this is the problem. If you can see here, you can hardly tell where's the button, right? Wow, that's what I was trying to introduce, right? So that's why we need things like panes to display, because you see here, right? Look at it here. Look at this one. What's happening is that the button is feeling it's being set to the size of the scene, which is a problem. We don't want that because I want to see the whole button. So, and you see, you can click it. It's just that we haven't added anything that should happen after clicking it. So I'm gonna close it, and then I'm going to, okay, let's give our application a name, right? So if I load here, you see there's no name here at the top. You see here at the top, I'm gonna use magnify a lot. So you see here at the top here, our application has no name. So let me give it a name. So just make sure you give it a name before showing it. Because if you show it, you're already showing to the user and you're not giving it a name. So you see the issue. So you're showing it before you give it a name. So give it a name before showing it. Everything is sequential. You need to do it in order. So there's a function called set title, which sets the title or the title of the stage, right? So we're gonna call it my awesome Java FX app, right? And then run, and then there we go. There's the name at the top. You see, it looks prettier now. And then I'm gonna close. So you see the issue, right, with adding the button directly or with adding UI controls directly. The issue is that they automatically get resized to the size of the UI of the scene. You could technically, but then it might not work. You could technically set the size, right? So you can say set, I think you can say set max width, right? And then let's say the maximum width is 30, and it has to be a double. So let's say 30.0, and then btn grid.set max height. Let's also make it 30.0. You could do that. Let's see if it's gonna actually resize. Yeah, you see the problem. No matter how much effort you put, it doesn't actually resize the button. So that's why we need to introduce things like panes. So pane is just to help you display. So pane, it helps you display the button. So for example, I can use, for example, an H box, right? So horizontal, it means that my buttons are going to be placed like this. If I'm using an H box, right? It means my buttons are going to be replaced like placed like this. But let me see. I need to copy. Come on. Copy paste. Right, so if you're using an H box, it means your buttons are going to be placed like this. Every time you add a button, it's going to be placed like this. So that's the beauty of panes. You see, it structures buttons and things in the order that we want them to be in. but it also depends with the kind of pane you're using, right? So for now, I'm just gonna use a generic pane, right? It's not specialized. Remember, these are the other ones are specialized. Grid is for grids, right? In terms of rows and columns. The other ones in terms of things like that. I think we use, for now, I'm just gonna use two things, right? One pane, which is this one, pane, the default, the generic pane, right? The one that is not specialized. It doesn't display it in terms of rows and columns, or it doesn't display it um, uh, in terms of top, left, bottom, right, all those things. So there's the pane, right? So before, look at my scene. So now I'm gonna use that constructor that takes in a parent, right? So I need to pass a parent. Parent it means the pane. What pane are you passing there? So I've named it pane in small letters, right? But then if I just write it like this, it's an issue because I haven't added the button to the pane. You won't see the button. You see, there's no button. So I need to add the button to the pane. So right before creating the scene and adding the pane to my scene, what I'm going to do is I'll add the button to the pane. So this is always how you're gonna add it. So pane, whatever that pane is, border pane, what pane, it's always gonna follow this structure. So I'm gonna say pane.get children, right? Which returns an observable list. So it returns a list of children, right? And in that list of children, you can view the get children function as like it returns an array list. It works similar to an array list. So if this returns an array list, that means I can add to the array list, right? So I'm gonna say call the function dot add, which takes in a node. And the node can be anything. It can be other panes too. It can be anything. So in this case, I just want to add a UI control, which is the button. There's the button. So before passing the pane, I add the button to my pane so that when I display the pane on the scene, the pane has a button. So if I run this, you should be able to see the button. You see, there's the button. Now it's displaying in the proper way, right? You see, even though it's not like as big as we expected it to be, but it's pretty better than before, right? Let me see if I can set the max width. Should I say, no, let me say set layout X, right? Let me set the X and Y coordinates, right? Let's say I want it to be at the center of the pane, right? So that's gonna be 350 divided by 2. 300 divided by 2, that's 150, that's 175. So 175.0, and then bt and grid.set layout y 175.0. I think this should work. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah. So I just set I was just setting the x and y coordinates, right? So you see it has moved. It's somewhere at the center, but it seems like it's not really at the center. It's somewhere at the center. I think the main issue here, right? I'm not sure, but I think the main issue is that what does it feel? Let me see, but it's fine. But that's a bit better now. Let's say 140, right? Let's say 140. Okay, almost there. 148. Let's say 148. Yeah, that's a bit better. So there's the button now, and you see now it shows in a better way, right? Compared to the before, it was maxed out, and there's nothing you can do to change that. It was there at the top. This corner here was there at the top. This top right corner was there at the top right. This bottom right corner was there at the bottom right. So yeah, that was the problem. So now we have our button there, just a basic button. It does nothing. How do we add functionality for it, right? So the simplest way, right? Remember, order is very important. Remember, this part you're adding the button to the pane. So before you add the button to the pane, give it functionality. So I'm gonna say button.grid, right? And then say set on action, right? So on action means that on action, when you did an action on the button, basically you clicked on the button. That's what it means. So in order for something to use or to make use of in order for a node to make use of event handling, right? It must implement the event handler interface where it extends, I think it extends event, right? If I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it needs to implement this interface, right? In order for it to use event handling. So I'm sure the button class does implement. Let's see. We must, yeah, but it must implement this interface. I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it, but I see the Boolean, the button properties. I see. Most of these things are in the slides, they're in the textbook. I mean, I saw it in the textbook, so yeah. Most of them, I don't know what they do. Not gonna lie. So let's see. Where's the set on action button? Come on. So you see, these are different ways of initializing the button. You can use the default constructor, or you can use the parameterized constructor, which takes in a string, basically the name of the button, the text on the button. And then there's another one, different way of initializing it. And then I'm just seeing default properties here. Set cancel button is cancel button, cancel property, blah, 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 blah. I don't see that class. I don't see the function, but it has just know that, yeah, in order for you to use event handling, right? So basically, what is event handling? So event handling is basically you are handling when especially an event has occurred. For example, the event could be a user clicked on the button, or the user hovered over the button. That would be an event, right? So you can create an event handler which handles when that specific event has occurred. In this case, our button set on action, it needs to take in that event handler. So we can do it like this, right? I can say event handler. There's many ways to do it. You can say event handler like this, and it takes in an action event, right? Which is a subclass of event, right? And then you put parentheses there, and then you put curly braces, and then you press enter like this. Okay, I don't know why it's complaining. Misplaced constructs. Event. Okay, it wants me. Why does it want me to do? Why is it doing? Why is it doing this now? Okay, let me do this. Let me check something. Set on action, right? Yeah, it is the right thing. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm doing it right. So it's event handler action event, and then I think I should just call it event, and then why is it not allowing me to import? Let me do this. Let me write it at the top there so that I can just import it. I don't know why it's not allowing me to import. Event handler action event. Okay, so let's start with this one. So also be careful with imports. I want JavaFX, so I'm gonna click on JavaFX, and then I want JavaFX, not AWT. import, right? I hope it's gonna stop moaning now because I'm doing everything right. Action event, right? And then I think, okay, I think it can be, oh, I see the problem. Hey, you need to say new. I see my problem now. And you need to say new and then do that. And then it's gonna take in a method. I'm always forgetting things. Eh? Just that my brain is dealing with a lot of programming languages. So sometimes I do forget. So there's the action event, right? So what I've created right now here, right, is something that you need to understand very well. It's what I call an anonymous class, right? There's anonymous classes and anonymous inner classes, right? So anonymous in the sense that, for remember, this I wouldn't say this one is an anonymous, right? Because I'm saving it into a variable. So I'm just gonna, you can go look at your slides because I don't want to make this video too long. So you can go look at your slides and understand what are anonymous and anonymous classes and anonymous inner classes. So here I just created an anonymous class and then I need to add the method here. There's a handle method, which means basically handle the event, right? So there's the handle method. So always when you're handling an action, every time it's going to be this long. I'm going to show you a different way to make it short, but I'm just saying every time when you handle it's going to be this long. I'm going to show you a shorter way using lambdas. So if this is the case, right? So let's just say, let me just output, right? So let me just say sys. So let's just output on the console. Every time when this button is pressed, right? I'm just gonna output on the console. Something very simple. And I say grid button has been clicked. After saying it has been clicked, I'll also greet the user, right? I mean, it's called grid button. So I'm gonna say hello, dear user, right? So there we go. And then I'm gonna click run, right? So now I've added event handling to handle when an event is occurred. In this case, I've handled the on action, right? When you've clicked the button. So when you click the button, you see, after clicking it, it says grid button has been clicked. Handle hello dear user, right? I click it again. Every time it's been clicked, every time it's clicked, then that action that there's a event handler for it. We handle that event. Hey, there's a lot of apps running in the background. Okay, let me close this. Don't save. So there's a shorter way of writing this, right? You can use lambdas. So I can just call it, just say event or E. In any way you want to do it, and then you do this. That's the shorter way of doing it. It's still gonna work the same way. So I'm gonna say sys error, and I'm gonna say, this time I'm just gonna write something short. Hello, dear user, right? Save. Oh, okay, I don't know why I did that. So yeah, you see, this is the shorter version of it. And then I'm gonna click on this, and then I'm gonna click on the button, and then there we go. It says hello, dear user, because I said when the on action when the button has been clicked. And then close, stop the app, close. There's also different ones. I think when you've hovered over the button. So hovering over the button, you see how this mouse is moving, right? When I'm moving on top of this T character, it means I'm hovering, right? We call that hovering. So there's also functions to handle that. You could, you just have to check the documentation. Let me see. Let me check. There's just a lot. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. Let me see. Set not that. Set. Yeah, set on key pressed. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is, it takes in a key event. Okay. So super event, yeah, on key, on mouse clicked, on mouse dragged over, you see, on mouse drag released, when you release the mouse after hovering. Oh, there's a lot on mouse, there's a lot on scroll. When you scroll, there's a lot of methods in there. You just have to find documentation and work with that. So we've done just a simple JavaFX application, right, with just a button there. So I'm just going to show you a different one. We're going to do three, right? This is the first one. The second one is just working with. Okay, let's test out a different types of buttons, right? So it's going to say the button has been clicked, and I want to change the colors of the buttons and things like that, right? So I'm going to say btn grid, the name of the button dot set color. Why is it doing this? Dot set. It's set what? What is it called? Set. Come on. Now it's not showing me the color part. Okay, so it doesn't want. Let me see. Can I set the style though? Okay, I can set the style. So what I'm gonna use, since I can't see the set color part, it's fine. I'm gonna use the set style. So set style, right? It uses CSS, right? It's similar to CSS. The way it sets the way you set colors or set things in Java, it's similar in JavaFX. It's similar to the styling, the cascading styling sheets, which is the CSS, right? So everything that you set must be prefixed with fx minus, right? So let's say I want to set the background color, right? And you separate each word with a hyphen, right? So background is going to be on its own, and then hyphen, and then color. And then after this, you specify the value, right? Of which I'm going to say, let's say red or green. You can do that. So when you combine all of this into one statement, right, it's going to be, and we write it in terms of a string. So it's going to be minus fx minus, and then I want the background color to be red, right? You'd set it like this. So let's test it out and see. And to add more statements, you separate each, you terminate each statement with a what is this? Come on, with a semicolon. That's how it knows, okay, this is a different style. You're referring to a different style. So this is when the button is clicked. Just notice only when the button is clicked. So I'm gonna click the button, the color should change, hopefully changes. There we go. So background color has changed to red when it is clicked. And you can also set features like after clicking it. Remember, the mouse is clicked, and then after you've released, you should go back to its normal color. You can do that. There's just a lot. It's endless. So the two things that I saw that were kind of useful, gonna be useful for your prac, is this feature for the background. Or you can also say you want the border color, right? The border color is just basically around the button. So I can say fx border color, and let's say red. By default, I think it's blue if you check. Yeah, blue. So this is the border color. You see, when you look at the button, right, around it, okay, in this case it's gray, but when you look at it from afar, it looks blue. So border means around it, border, around it. That's the color that we're setting. So let me click here. It should set the border to red. There we go. You see, that's what I meant by around. That's the border. So that's how you set the border. Even for we can also do it for our pane too. Anything that's a node. So I can do it for the pane. I can say pane before I add it to the scene. Remember, it's before you add it to the scene. So pane dot set style. Right, and then you can Google, you can find out more information about this thing online. Set style, I'm gonna say FX, and then border color. Let's set it to green. Let's make it a bit different. So I have this, and then you see by default the border color is blue, right? And as you can see, if I zoom in, okay, it's not. Yeah, but you can see around it has changed. Just that I chose a different color. Let's make it red so that it actually shows a bit. Yeah. So you see, remember what I talked about? The stage itself, right, is going to resize itself based on the size of the scene. Look at the scene. It just adds the top part only. You see that this top part for canceling, and that's added automatically for you. So you can add border colors like this. See, there's the border color and everything. And then grid, after pressing, the border of the buttons should turn to red. So these are the different ways you can do things, right? So also here you can say when the button is clicked, right? You can say you can start reading files, right? You can do about data input stream and things like start reading the file. You can do all of that only when the button is clicked. So you can do things like that. So for now, since I've explained a bit about setting style, okay, you can also do multiple styles, right? And you can separate each style by a semicolon. So semicolon, and then I say it's prefixed by FX, remember? And I want to change the background color to cyan, right? So that's how you separate. You need to put the semicolon there to separate that. Okay, this is now a different style. Oh, that's the next style. And then I run it, and then I click. It should change the border of the button and the background color. So there we go, CN. You see, you change two things at once: the border and the button of the color, the background color. You change to this. So it's endless. It's like the matrix. It's just there's a lot in JavaFX that you can do. So let's just do something very simple, right? I want to show you all the different different ways. We'll get to the rows and columns and the border panes and the what. We'll get to that. Let's see how we can add an image, right, to the pane, right? So I'm gonna put back my pane. I don't need the button though. So the button should disappear. And then the pane, we're gonna add children later. So to add an image, it's simple. That's how nice Java is. Try doing this in C++. It's not gonna be nice. So it's image, right? And remember the rules of Java. Anything that starts an uppercase letter is a class. So we use the image class, and I'm gonna call it just image, new image, like this, right? And then it takes in a string to where the file is located. It's like reading a file, but it's reading an image instead. So remember to import the right thing, JavaFX, not AWT, FX. I import, so I need to get an image, right? So let me go get an image. So what image can I download? Just give me a sec. Let me think. What's that guy's name? Cone Freaks. Yeah, let me add Cone Freaks. So let me see which image. Okay, that's a bit too small. I need the right size. Okay, this should suffice. So save image as this is Gone Freaks. So Gone Freaks. For those, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. For those who know, they know. So I need to locate my Eclipse project. So users, my username, and then Eclipse workspace, and then my project, and then the source folder. So I'm just going to edit inside the source folder. And then remember, for the updates to reflect in Eclipse, you need to refresh. Right click on your project name and then click refresh. And then there's the image. If I double click on the image, why is it not showing? Is it because it's too zoomed in? Okay, it's too zoomed in. So there's the image, right? There's Gone Freaks. So I'm gonna close that image, and then I'm gonna tell it where to find the image, right? Since main.java is within the source folder, so I'm within the folder that the image is located in. I don't need to specify which folder for it to look for it in. So I'm just gonna say Gone Freaks like this .png, and then I can't simply just say okay, for this one we don't use an image, a pane, right? We're gonna use something different. So here I can't just do this, right? You can't add images to scene directly. You need to pass it through a class called image view. So I'm gonna say image view. It's in the name itself, image view, to view the image, right? So view is equals to new image view. So that's why I don't understand people want to create code, because if you understand what the name make it make sense to yourself. Image view. Why is it called image view? Because it's meant to view the image, and it takes in an image. But I just want to import it for now. So JavaFX, don't choose the right thing. JavaFX, and then we pass it an image that we want to view. Then we pass the image view onto the. Okay, it doesn't. Okay, you can't also pass. I forgot. You also can pass. Yeah, you see things with images and whatnot. Images and shapes. You can't pass them direct. You have to pass them through panes. It's unlike UI controls like buttons and things like that. Those ones you can pass direct. But things like shapes and images, all those things, they need to be passed through panes. So I'm gonna say pane dot get children, get the array list for children, and then add to that array list. And then I'm gonna say pane here, and then that should be fine. And then let's run it. And then, okay, my image is not showing. What's the issue again for the image if it's not showing? I think I forgot what was the main issue. Because I once faced something like this. Okay, image view. I add it to my pane. Why is it not showing though? Because I did add. You see, this part is important. If I had omitted like this, right, then it would be understandable why it's not displaying, right? But if I do this and I set like this, or maybe it's too big or too small. Yeah, I think that's the case. So if it's too big or too small, I think there's a way to set the image, right? So I'm gonna say pane dot scale. Let me see, is it X? What is it called? Is it X? Or I don't think it's the pane. Let me look at the image. Let me say let's set the image view. Let's set max. I think I should set max height and max, or set feet. Yeah, it's feet height and feet width. Yeah, so it's feet height and feet width. So I want it to fit to this image to be this size, right? So 350. Dot zero. Remember the D at the end just means the double. You don't have to do that, but I'm just reminding you. If you did watch the video on Introduction to Java, I did explain about that D at the end, but it simply means that it's a double. It hopefully shows now. Yeah. So the problem was the size. So it was too. You see, it's white here. That means it was too large for it to show and appear on the screen. You see, JavaFX is nice. You see, there's the JavaFX, but then another thing, right? That's not well. You see, look at it. When I zoom in, it's still stuck, stays to the corner. It's stuck to the corner. And let me show you something. Remember, this application, the user can stretch it, right? They can do this. You can also block them from doing that. You can also block them from doing that. But the one that I want to show you the most that's important is you see it's only because I've specified a specific height and things. And okay, yeah, I know what's going on. Konjo, which one exactly do I need to fix? I think it's the pane. Is it the no? It's not the pane. Yeah, it's not. It's the pane. It needs to match with the scene. So I'm gonna do what we call a binding property. Binding property. Let me see if it's gonna work. If I still remember. Binding property. It's gonna bind the binding property is gonna bind you bind anything to another thing. Something is bound to another thing. That means if I'm bound, that means we're connected, right? If I get hurt, it's like, for example, imagine God came and he made you and your twin. I mean, some people call their best friends twin. You and your best friend or your twin, you God made you in such a way that you are bound together, right? That means if your twin gets slapped on a left cheek or his left cheek, what's gonna happen is you would automatically feel that same pain that they're feeling at that exact moment. So it's like you are in sync together. So this binding property, that's the power of Java. The binding property, what it does is that as long as that other thing changes, I should also change the same way as that person is changing. If that person gets slapped, I should feel that exact same pain that they're feeling on their left cheek. So that's what we're going to do now. So the question we need to ask is what we are binding what to what. The thing we need to bind is the pain. Because remember, when you're resizing like this, we're resizing the scene. But you saw the pain didn't change, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a binding property. I'm gonna set I'm gonna say pain. I think it's the pain. I think I should set the pain, but we'll see. Dot set is it X? No, set property. I want the property. How what property? Mm, no, it can't be this. I think is it center? Is it center property? There's property. I only remember doing the binding with the shapes, right? So let me see, center. I want the property individual disables effective. I want to set the property. Just give me a sec. There's a lot of functions here. Get layout X. I think I can use defines the X coordinate of the translation. That is, I think I can use, but I don't want this one. I want the one that is a suffix property. Okay, I don't see it here. Okay, I think I'll just demonstrate because I'm not sure how you can. Not sure how you can bind here with in terms of the pane. Yeah, I don't know how you can bind with the pane. So what I would do is no, I don't think it's the pane. I think it's the view dot if the node is resizable, it will set its layout bounds to its current preferred width. If the node is not resizable, okay, let's see. Scale, yeah, okay, I think it's this one. Okay, why does it have 3 things? Okay, I will just demonstrate on sec when you do shapes. Yeah, I will just demonstrate on shapes because now I'm wasting time and I'm not sure how I can demonstrate it. But yeah, so there's the image view. We have our image using image view, and we can also play audio and videos in this application. And you can also convert this image to grayscale. All those things are possible. It just needs you to be passionate about it enough to spend the time to read about it. Yeah, so that's for images, right? So let's do a different example. Let's just do shape, right? And remember, you can't add the shapes directly to the scene. You have to add them on the pane, then you add the pane to the scene. So I'm going to create a circle shape, right? So I'm going to call it circle. It's called a new circle, right? And then I'm going to import. And then I'm going to, at the end of the day, I need to add my circle to my pane, right? So .get children .add circle. At the end of the day, I need to add it there. It's just that for now, we won't see, let's see if, yeah, we won't see anything for now. So what I'm going to do is I need to set the different properties, right? I need to give it a radius and I need to give it a center. So I need to set the center and the radius and everything. So I'm going to say circle.set, is it set center X, right? Yeah. So set the X value for the center, of which is going to be based on the width of the scene. In this case, I can see it's 350, right? So 350 divided by 2, that's going to be 175, right? So I'm going to set it at 175 and then set center Y at 175 again, right? Dot 0D dot 0D, right? And then I'm going to give it a radius. So circle dot set radius, right? The radius, let me give it 100, radius of 100, right? Let's run and see if we can see the circle. Yeah, so there's the circle now. So by default it's black. I didn't know it was black, but yeah, so by default it's black. So let's increase the radius a bit. I want it to be almost as close to the end points of the pane. Yeah, so that should be fine. And then we can set remember what I talked about, the set style. So let's set the style, right? So circle dot set style, and then we pass a string there. Then I'm gonna prefix it with dash fx dash, and then I want the background color to be, what's the value to be? What can I make it? How can I make the background? Okay, I can set fill. I think I can set fill. Let me see. I think there is a function for that. I don't need to take it this far. Let me see. That set fill, yeah, which takes in a color. So color, so you call the color class and all the colors are static. So color dot, what color do you want? So I want, and it shows here, you see, it shows you the color that you've currently chosen. So I'm gonna, let me see, chocolate. Yeah, let's choose chocolate. Let's have some of that melanin on the circle. And then I'm gonna click run, and then boom, there's the circle, right? We'll deal with the properties and what for, like for example, when you resize it, why doesn't it resize? Why doesn't the circle also adjust? So set, can you see set? Okay, I can't set the border color, so I'm just gonna use the style function because it's refusing for me. It's refusing to allow. There's no function for me to set the border. So let's say the border is red, right? Is it even showing? I don't think so. I don't know. So let's choose some. Let's choose a different color and see. Okay, that so it doesn't actually set the border. You can't set the for borders. This, yeah. So let's just leave that in general. So okay, it makes sense because circles you can't really, but technically they have borders. Technically, circles have borders. So dark blue, dark cyan. Uh, let me see purple. Let's just choose dark magenta. Okay, boom, there we go. So what I wanted to emphasize is this, right? You can also prevent, if you want your application to be a fixed size, right? You can prevent the user from stretching it, right? So before you show it, you make your stage not resizable. So you say set resizable. It takes in a Boolean value. So by default, it's true. So you can set it to false. That means it's false. You cannot resize it. You get what you get. You see? Yeah, you get what you get. If life gave you lemons, you're working with those lemons. That's a nice property. That's a nice function feature to have to prevent the user from resizing the app. So you could do that. But I want to demonstrate that issue that I was talking about when it comes to resizing the. When it comes to resizing, you see when I resize, right? Look at something. The circle is not resizing. That's the problem. You see, the circle doesn't resize. If I zoom in, it's there at the corner. If I put it to full screen. So how do we do that? We use what we call binding properties. Like I said, you bind something to something, right? So what am I trying to bind exactly? I want it to resize its center to be the center of that specific size of the pane, right? So how do I do that? So I'm gonna say circle dot set center. Is it set what? Set x. No, there's something, man. What is it called? Set. No, it's not set. I'm always missing something. It's what is it called? That function, man, that to bind this thing. I think it's set though. Just that I forgot. Let me see. Give me a sec. His mouse, blah 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 blah. Okay. No, it's center X. Yeah, I remember it's center X property. So it's center X property. So remember properties, right? Anything, if you have an integer property or a double property, it just means that when you change one thing, when you change one thing, the other thing is also going to change. So it's like they are in sync. They are connected, right? And then after calling the center property, I call the bind function to bind it, to connect it to another person so that it's like, if it was possible, it's like you and your friend or your partner, you just decide to be in sync so that if anything that you do to yourself, it's going to also affect that same person. So if you get a tattoo on your on your on your thighs or whatever, that tattoo is also going to appear on the other person, regardless of where that person is. So that's what we're trying to do. We are binding the two things. They're bound together. So I want to bound it to what exactly? I want to bound it to my panes property, to my pane center. So every time when the center of the pane resizes, it matches. I also resize my x, my circle's x value, the center for the x value, the x value for the center of my circle. So I'm gonna say pane dot is it center? When is what? Oh, it's get. I think it should. I should get. No. It's what? It's pane dot what? You see now. What was the center? The pane's property function. Just give me a sec. Yeah, it's layout. I think it's layout X property. Yeah. So layout X property. I think that should be fine. Yeah, layout X. We're just gonna test it now. So I also need to set center Y property and bind it to my panes Y y coordinate. So layout y property. I need to bind these two things together so that when I resize my pane, my shape is going, my circle center, which is the x coordinate and the y coordinate, will automatically resize. So okay, no, I think I didn't do it properly. Let me see. Yeah, I didn't do it properly. I'm calling the wrong function. It's not. Yeah, it's not layout. What is that function at inside pane? Let me see. I'm calling the wrong property. I'm calling the wrong function here. What is this function? Defines the x coordinate of the translation is added to what? Is added to this node's transform for the purpose of layout. What is what? It's oh yeah. Oh, I remember now. Okay, yeah. It is actually layout. It's the x coordinate, right? But then I need to divide that x coordinate by 2 because remember, the center is just the total size or the total width divided by 2 and the total height divided by 2. So inside each property, right, there's a function. There's functions like dot sum, dot subtract, there's dot sum, then there's subtract. Is it dot add? Oh, it's add. And then dot divide. So me, I want to divide, right? So I want to divide it by 2. So I'm going to divide it by 2, take the coordinate of that other shape and divide it by 2. And then resize my x. Because my x, the center, okay, it still doesn't want to work. I don't know why it's doing this. It's a very weird. It's still, why is it doing that? Though why? Am I really calling the right function here? But this is the right way. So you have to do something like this. Let me see. Is it get width? I think let me just get the width. Let me see if I can. Okay, I can't do that. So let me look again for that function. Oh, let's just use max height property. I think it's the max height. Let's use max height property. Divide that by 2. Dot max width property, right? Dot divide by 2. Still, it really doesn't. It really doesn't want to work. What property am I supposed to be matching it to? This thing, I forgot the function. Should I? Let me see. And it needs to be of type type property at the end. So just give me a sec. Observable map, get style, no, nope, get translate. Is cache and sets, is hover, nope. Is this supposed to be layout? Oh, I tried layout, I tried max height and max width. I'm not seeing this thing. Totally forgot. Maybe it's preferred width. I'm not sure. Let's try preferred width and height. So or maybe I'm swapping them around. Let me see. Let me see something. I might actually be doing. Yeah, that was the issue. My bad. But it's still fine. Still fine. It might not even be the issue, but it's still fine. I'm mixing them up. Remember, the x is the width and the y is the height. So here, where's that function that I just saw right now? What is what? Get preferred or I think it's get no, it's not. It's what? I just saw it right now. The preferred what height and width functions. I'm still looking for it again. Layout X property, nope. Not these ones. Nope. Yeah, preferred. Yeah, it's pref height. So it's pref width property. Then dot pref height property. Let's see now if that's gonna change. Still doesn't want to change. Honestly, I don't know why it doesn't want to change. Because this should be fine, because I'm saying the center X property for my circle, right? So the center for my circle is gonna be bound to the pane, so that every time the pane is resized, the circle will also be resized. The circle's center will be resized. I don't know why it's not. It doesn't want to take the center and match it with. Yeah, I don't know why it's not allowing me to do that. But I don't think you guys will have any preg like this. But yeah, this is, I just forgot which exact function to call. But this is how you'd bind. It's something like this. Here I'm binding the center X property and the center Y property. I don't like what it's doing here. It is center X, right? Yeah, it is. It is a double property. Let's try it one more time, or maybe the location where I'm putting the line, but it's still fine because it's like it's set. It should be set before you run your JavaFX application. Layout width and height. Let me see if I can find the functions. What are the functions? Why is not? Maybe I'm using the wrong functions. ID proper height property. The height of this resizable node. This property is set by the regions by setting. Okay, it's a read only. Okay, there's a height property. So let's try that. Let's do this. Let me see if this would work. Dot width property, because I just want to match with the width and the height of this thing. Divide with the width. Remember, it's gonna go to the pane. Get that. I wanted to get the width, height, the width and the height, right? So it's gonna get the width and then divide it by 2. So every time this pane is resized, it's resized. It should resize take the width and then divide it by 2, and then set the center X to that value. Okay, yeah, I think it should be fine now. Finally, it's the width property, right? You see, even when I zoom in, it's still at the center. It adjusts. So that's what I call binding. Actually, it's actually the width property. So you see, as I stretch, look at what happens. As I stretch, the circle is also adjusting its center X and center Y. Look, it adjusts. That's the power of double the property binding property. You see, it's nice, né? So yeah, just that there's a lot of understanding, and yeah, if you make that mistake of forgetting the functions, you're cooked. So you have this, right, binding property. We understand the binding property. I totally forgot the functions names, but yeah, at least I remembered them. So it's width. We're gonna use width property and with height property. So let's explain a bit about this double property and width property and all those things. So let me show you what happens. So each primitive type has its own class, right? Which is For example, there's a double class. There's also what you call property classes, right? To do binding. So you say double property like this, and then I'm gonna call it D1, right? Is equals to new. And I think double property is an interface. I think it's an interface, or yeah, it's inside JavaFX. I think it's an interface or generic class or abstract class, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just double check. I think it's an interface. So you'd have to use simple. Oh, come on. Open the declaration. Okay, it doesn't want to. Okay, it's an abstract class. Yeah, so it's an abstract class. Remember, you can't instantiate an abstract class. So there's a for each for each property class, whether it's integer property, float property, whatever property, it has its own child class that inherits from this abstract class. That's complete. It's always prefixed with simple. So simple double property like this, right? And we can initialize it here. I think we can do that in the constructor. We can pass the value. So the value, I'm just gonna say 45, right? And then I create another double property. D2 is equals to new simple double property. Let's make this one 33, right? And then to display, I think you need to call the value function, if I'm not mistaken. So sys out, right? So D1 dot double value. Yeah, close. I was close to the answer, but yeah, as long as I remember a few things at least. Dot double value. So we'll see the different values, right? So if I run this and I look at at my terminal, it should have done something though. Why is it not displaying? Okay, there it is. Okay, it wasn't showing. Oh, it was gonna show after the launch, right? So let's do this. I don't wanna. I hope it doesn't moan. Okay. Yeah, I just want to work with the terminal. We'll launch the JavaFX application later. So these are the two values at the moment, right? D1 is this one, and then this is D2. Nothing too confusing, right? So let's bind these two numbers. So that whatever happens to the other number also affects the other number. So here we are binding or applying the binding property. Binding property. So whatever I do to one value, it's going to affect the other value. So let's see what happens. Wait, before we even make changes, let's see what happens. So let's look at the output. You see, they're bound together now. So D1 is bound to D2. So what's going to happen, D1 is going to take the value of D2 so that they match. At this point, you see now they are the same, right? So before I display, I'm going to undo this. Let me change one value, right? Let me say D1. Let me say D1 dot let's add a value to D1. Let's add 100, right? Yeah, let's add 100. Remember, you can't use plus the normal operators. You have to use functions. So let's add 100 to D1. You see, I'm only adding to D1, but look at the surprising output. What's going to happen is, remember, I bound these two things together using the binding property. So whatever changes I make to D1 will affect D2. And whatever changes I make to D2 will affect D1. So they are connected. It's like Bluetooth pairing or something like that. They're just connected. Whatever happens with one thing affects the other thing. So if I run this, okay, what didn't it add? Did it add this value? Or am I calling the function wrong? I did bind yeah, it is. Or maybe, what's going on? Let me do this. Let's say D2, or maybe I need to use the other one. Okay, let me use D2 instead. Let's see. Maybe it wants me to use D2. Still doesn't want output. Okay. That's surprising. Let me see. Oh, okay, I need to store the answer. Yeah, my stupid brain. So I need to say d1 is equals to d1 dot add. Let's add 230. Okay. Why is it not changing? Okay, this is a void function, but why is it not changing? Okay, let me check something. JavaFX double binding. Oh, it actually does return. So I don't know. I think maybe it wants me to cast. So let's try to cast to double property. Let's see what's gonna happen. Okay, it doesn't want to cast. Yeah, it returns an answer, but the thing is now I don't know. I didn't see this part. I'm just experimenting. Let's see something here. No, it's fine. I forgot how to make the changes, but you see here. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we need to write. So let me do this. Let's do this. Let's say, let me do this. What if I say, will it allow me to do this? It won't. Oh, yeah, it won't allow me to do that. Okay, so let me just do this. Let me initialize a new different value. New double property. Okay, I don't think it's gonna work, but I just want to test something. Yeah. Okay, so why is it refusing to add? That's something I'm not understanding. So let's see here. They just divide by 2, then bound, and then okay, that's fine. But yeah, this is I don't know why it's not adding, but yeah, this is how you bind to from one value, one property to another property. This is how you bind them together. But I'm sure you've seen it already. I don't need to demonstrate too much because you see what happened. This value D1, it was 45 before, but since I bound that value to D2, it changed. It was changed to 33, the value of D2, and there you go. You see, usually, and we saw it here, that when you bind one value with another value, or one property to another property, it's going to whatever changes are done on that one thing will affect the other thing. So yeah, I don't know why it's refusing to make the changes though. I don't know, but yeah, I'm just gonna undo this and then run my JavaFX application, and then there you go, the binding property. It can stretch. It resizes the center every time the stage is resized. So yeah, what else should I show you? Okay, just one last thing. Let me see. What's the time? Okay, it's not showing the time. So one last thing. Let me see. Okay, one last thing. Let's do. What is this? Let's use border pane, right? Let's try to use a different pane, right? Okay, let's use a different pane, and then I'm gonna remove this. So I need to delete from there until there. So not border pane, GridPane. Why am I saying border pane? So pane is equals to GridPane, right? New GridPane. It instantiated. So each of these nodes, they have a default constructor, right? That's why I don't pass anything there. all of them, even the scene, you can use the default constructor and then set the preferred width and height, calling the functions. So there's the pane, and we can say pane, I think pane add, right? So you can add a child, right? And you specify the column and the index to add to the grid, right? Remember, it uses rows and columns, right? So let's do this thing. Let's do a bit of planning, right? Let's plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out and put it there, right? So I want to add, okay, let's say this is row 0, right? Row 0, and this will be column 1, right? This is row 0, and this will be column 1, or column 1, or column 0. Column 0, yeah. Row 0, column 0. Yeah, it's column 0, row 0, column 0. And then let's say here want to add a text field, right, for the user to enter text, right? And then I want to add another text field there, another text field there, and I can add another text field there, whatever. So I want to structure it in such a way that I can create some sort of like a, what's that thing? Where you have a username and a password, right? Email and password, a simple login form. So what I'm going to do is at the top, I'm going to put labels. So this is going to be represent my label. And there's going to be another label here. And then at the bottom, there's going to be a text field. And at the bottom is going to be another text field. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to have a button here. But I want to put it in the other row here, another column like this. So this is something that we're going to have. So this is row 0, column 0, row 0, column 1, right? And this is all I'm going to put what we call labels, right? So let me actually put the labels there. So it's going to be like this. Here I'm going to have email. And then copy paste. And then here I'm going to have password, right? Yeah, I want it to be like this, something like this. And then the button is gonna have a name. We're gonna call it login, right? Login is simple UI form, right? Simple login form, right? Something like this. So we need to be very careful of the rows and the columns. This is row 0, column 0, row 0, column 1, row 1, column 0, row 1, column 1. So we need to be very careful. So let's start with this label email, right? And this is how you create a label. I'm going to call it LBL, prefix for label, LBL, let's say email, LBL email is equals to new label. And remember what I said, this UI component, these nodes, they take in, they all have a default constructor. Or you can also pass in the name for the label. It's up to you. So I'm going to create another label here, LBL password is equals to new, not new password, new label. And then now we need to add things to put in text, right? The things to put in text, we call them text fields. So these things to put in text, to type in text, we call them text fields. So I'm going to say text field txt email. If you did informatics, now you can kind of remember, if you can kind of get the idea. If you did informatics, new text field and text. Let me import. Remember JavaFX. If you import wrong things, there's nothing anyone can do to help you. New text field. We have all these fields, right? Now we need to add the children. Before we add the children, we need to set the rows and we need to add them to the specific rows and columns, right? So let's do that. So before we do all those things, right? Okay, it's fine. Let's add them. I'll show you what's missing. So add the children to the GridPane. So let's add the children. So I'm going to say pane.add, right? You pass in the node, which is that thing you want to add, the child. Press enter. The child that I want to start to add is LBL email. If I look at my, press the wrong thing. If I look at my design, right? This is row 0, column 0. So this is going to be 0, 0. This is fine, right? We'll set the other thing about sizes and what we'll do that later. Right now we're just adding, because I want you to see the issues with just adding and not adding spaces between these two things. So this is now same row, but the column is different. It's now column 1. So column, remember the first input here is a column. So this would mean column 1, row 0. And then pane.add txt email, and then we are now in row 1, right? Row 1, column 0. That's the text field for the email. We said row 1, column 0, and then it's row 1. And then pane.add txt password is still the same row, right? Which is row 1, but then the column is now different. It's column 1. If you check, this is now column 1, and this is row 1. This is row 1, column 1. This is column 0. This is row 1. This is row 0. So now we are in row 2. Right. We are in row 2. Okay, I need to add a button for my thing. So button btn login, right, is equals to new button, right? And then I'm going to say pane.add btn login, right? So I know that my row is now row 2, but then the column, I think it's column 1. Yeah, it's column 1. So column is column 1. And remember the buttons and all these things, we haven't added names for them. You see the problem with that. Let's run it, right? There's the names. There's the things that we have, but then it's not the, did I put the labels right? Oh, so I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the default, okay, it's not really showing right now. That's the issue. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give these things names, right? That's why we can't really see anything. So LBL email. So email dot set text, right? Then this is just gonna be email. That's the text for that label. So if I run this, it should appear. Yeah, you see. Now I can see the label because I didn't set it before. That's how I said we're gonna do all those things later. For now, I want to show you the importance of labeling, giving your things names and text so that the user can see. And then now we need to set the password. So LBL password set its text to password like this, right? And then the text field, we can create what we call a prompt text. So set prompt text. Prompt text, it means that it's grayed out. You can overwrite it. So it's just text that helps you for the user to know what they should enter. So I'm just gonna say enter your not write it in 4. Let me say enter your password. And then let's see now. So you see there's password there, and then let me override that. You see it's grayed out, it's prompt text, so that you know when you enter here, oh, I must enter password. So that's why I added there. And if you look at this one, the password text field, it doesn't have that thing. We didn't put it. So yeah. And then I'm gonna have, what is this? TXT password. Let's set the prompt for TXT password field, text field. So set prompt. Come on, prompt text. If you say set text, right, you are literally setting its text. There's a difference between prompt and set. no, I made a mistake. This is email. Enter email, and then enter password like this. And then the button needs to also have a name, btn login.set text. The button, there's no such thing as prompt and whatnot because it's not a text field. You can set text because it's not something that the user is going to enter. You don't go to a button and start entering text in a button, right? So I can use the set text function here. So I'm going to call the button log in. And then there's the button, right? And then we can do the binding property and whatnot, all those things, but it's fine. We can just set, we don't need to do the binding. We can just set this thing not to be resizable. We set resizable to be false. Okay, this is now the thing. So what we need to do now, the only thing that's left is the spaces in between. We call that padding, right? I can set the padding. I think, no, it's not, is it padding? Yeah, it's padding, yeah. The spaces in between them. And then the gaps from the, you see these gaps, right? From, you see from here, you see from this corner here, from that corner up until here, up until my text field, from that corner up until there. That's what we call a gap, right? So I'm gonna set a horizontal, meaning that meaning that it's from this to that side. It's horizontal. Then we have vertical gap, right? Vertical gap just means the gap between these things, right? There's the vertical, which is this one. Then there's the horizontal, which is this one. Come on, yeah. This will be the horizontal space between the elements, right? And then this will be the vertical gap. Is it? No, it's not between the elements. My mistake. Not between the elements. It's from the pane itself, the grid pane, from its top line there, going downwards to any of these elements. That will be the gap. You see from, come on, yeah, it's from there up until here. That line, that will be a vertical gap. And then from here to this side here, this would be a horizontal gap, right? So I need to set those gaps. So I can set, I think it's called set alignment, yeah. So I can say pane dot set alignment, and then okay, alignment. Okay, it's not really alignment, but let me see. Let me say position dot center, right? I want my thing to be at the center, something like this. You can also do that, but that's not what I'm looking for. Is it set? Yeah, horizontal alignment. Yeah, you can set horizontal alignment. You can set the what, but I think you can also do all of it in once. Let's do this for now. Let's set the padding, right? So the padding is the spaces between the components themselves. So I'm gonna use you use the inserts class, right? And you pass an instance of inserts, which takes a bottom, I think it's bottom right, if I'm not mistaken, bottom right, and then no, it's top right, bottom left. I think it's in that order if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just gonna pass in like random values. Let's see if it did add the spaces between. Okay, no, I see I'm always mixing up these things. The padding is for the thing from you see from the edges of the pane. I've mixed them up. It's not for the elements. It's for, you see, from there to this part. That's the padding. So this would be the left padding. This would be the right, the top padding. This would be the right padding. This would be the right padding. and then this would be the bottom padding. So I want to fix more on the left padding, right? So let's, because I want it to move to the right? So if I want it to move to the right, remember, I want to pad, I want to shift this thing to the right. So how do I do that? So if I'm not mistaken, let me see. I want to see which one, in what order. There's top, right. There's what? Top, right, bottom, left. So it's top, right, bottom, and left. It's in that order, right? So it's top, 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 top. Let's make it 25. So from the top, it should move down 25. Okay, still not enough. Let's say 50. This thing, you must play around with it a lot in order to really put the information where you want it to be. And then right is fine. I want left. If I set the left, right, it's gonna shift everything to the right. The bigger my left value, the more it's gonna move to the right. So let's see. You see, it has moved to the right a bit. So let's double it so that we can actually see the improvement. Yeah, you see, now it's perfect. It's in the center, right? So it's in the center, and then now I need to move it down a bit. So I need to add my top, increase my top. Let's make it 80. Let's increase the top. Okay, still hasn't moved enough. 150. Why not? Because I feel like the values that I'm entering them, it's like it's not moving the way I want it to move. 120. Let's use 120 and see. Perfect. So we have it where we want it to be, but the left needs to be increased a bit. Let's say 30, just a little bit. It doesn't seem like it's aligned. So let me say 28. And then, yeah, you play around with this thing, Sham. That's why there's things like Scene Builder to speed up this process. But since you guys are still beginners, they don't want you to use such tools. So we have all of this, right? We have our app. Now I need to set the horizontal and the vertical gaps, right? So pane.set h gap, right? The gaps in horizontally between the fields, right? So it should be a small value because I don't want my things to disappear. So yeah, you see, this is the horizontal gap, you see, between the tools, right? That's the gap. And then, okay, since the gap has been increased, okay, let's make it 15. And then you see, the more I increase the horizontal gap, right, it's shifting to the left, to the right. So I need to also reduce my left value so that it doesn't move outward, outside the pane. It doesn't disappear because it might disappear. You see, isn't it a bit better now? Yeah, it's a bit better now. So we have the horizontal gaps and I feel like they are fine. Now we need to set the vertical gaps. So basically vertical, it means, you see this password here, underneath it, you see the space underneath the password in the text field is very small. So that's what we call the vertical gap. So I need to set that. So pane dot set v gap. Let's start small. Let's say 15. And then work our way on it. Okay, not too shabby. Yeah, I think that should suffice. And we can set the sizes of the text. It's a lot. So lbl email dot set size. Is it size? Is it size or set? Is it set size or preferred height? Let me see if I can find the right function to set this. What are they? Okay, I can. So that means I can. Okay, I kind of see it. So let me say max height, right? So height, that means it should stretch it. It should look. Let's see. Okay, it didn't do anything, so that's not it. I knew it didn't make any sense. So why is the set size function? Okay, resize invoke variation pattern. With an height. Okay, so let me say, let's see if this would work. I forgot how to resize these things because usually we just leave them as they are. Okay, this is not the function. That said, the max size. That's why I like using things like Scene Builder because it saves me a lot of time instead of having to do all of this. Yeah, this is way too much. Yeah, this is way too much. So what I'm gonna do is, it's fine. I'm just gonna leave it as it is. And then we add all the extra things to make our application look nice. So I'm gonna say login page, right? It's just a page for you to log in at the top there. That's all it does. Nothing too fancy. And then the button, I need to resize the button. So btn login. I don't know how to resize these things, but let's see. Okay, I think it's preferred size, width and height. So let's say the width matches. Let's use the text fields size, right? So any text field. So let's say text field dot get get width, right? Get the width, and then use that as the width, and then height txt email dot get height. So I'm just using my text fields default because I want it to be the same size as the text fields, right? I hope that's gonna work. Damn, it didn't work. So how wide is this thing? Okay, it's fine. So it's fine. I'm gonna play around with the values. So in terms of wideness, that's width, right? So let's start with 20. But the height is also important. Okay. At this point, I'm just gonna put big values because now I can see my things now. Okay, there it is. Now we're getting somewhere. Because I'm gonna keep resizing and changing by small increments, and it's not gonna show well. I just happened to choose the right size. So there's the button, right? That should be fine. Yeah, I think everything's fine now. It looks better now than before. So there's the login app. And then, yeah, this is the login app. It's just gonna write a simple thing that shows whatever you've typed there. So let's add the colors, right? So I'm gonna set the background color. Let's look for examples here. Login page, samples. I just want a login page that's black. Let's do this. Yeah, you can design all of these things exactly the way it is here. You can do all of that, add circles, because remember all those other things are just circles. Okay, I'm just gonna color it the way I feel like it. So I need to change my text color to be white, right? It's not the right, it's not a nice thing. It's not, how do I put it? It's not the way that I'm writing, it's not like the really nice way of writing it, but I'm just gonna, let me style my pane. Let me use yellow, right? So I'm gonna say fx, right, and then no, not background, border. Let's make the border, let's put in the border color to be, let's say yellow, right? And then pane. Okay, I can just combine these two lines, right? I can combine them, the styles, combine them here, and then I'm gonna set background color. Let's set that to gray, right? But then I won't see my text. It's not gonna be, okay, we can still see the text because I use gray, but if I use black like this, you see the text is not as visible as we would like it to be. So I would have to change my labels color. So lbl email dot set this what is dot set. Why is there not set, no set color here? Was it set? Okay, it doesn't want. Oh, it was set text fill. Yeah, set text fill, which is the color of the text. Yeah, and then I'm gonna say color dot. Is it the one? Yeah, I think so. But we'll see. We'll play around with it. So, I want yellow. Yeah, I think it's text fill. Yeah, so there's the text fill, and then you see it's quite a process to actually get that beautiful application that you guys usually see. Those beautiful applications that you guys see. It's quite a lot. And then here I'm gonna set txt email and do the same thing. Set text text. Is it? Oh, this one is color. Which function should I call for this one to set its color? I think I'd have to use the set style here because I don't see the set color or the set text fill function. Yeah, so it's actually important to know style because some UI controls here, they don't have some of the functions. So I'm gonna say it's not actually color, it's okay, let's leave it because I don't know how I'm gonna set it. This one is a bit complicated. I don't know how I would set it. And then the button, okay. So btn login dot set. Okay, it doesn't want. So text fill, it's also gonna be color dot yellow. Is yellow green? That yellow what? Oh, it's a mixture of, okay. So we have this, and then the background of the button, I don't know what color am I gonna give it. Let's make it cyan, right? Let me make the button okay, let's set the border. Is it okay? Can you take in a color? Okay, it doesn't want to take in a color. Okay. Then I'm gonna set the style. set style, then fx. There's quite a lot that you have to do here. So color, then yellow. Then the background of the button, I'm gonna make it cyan. So prefixed by f, remember it's prefixed by dash fx dash, everything that you wanna put. So I want the background color to be cyan, right? And then let's look at it now. So there we go. Okay, the button color. Okay, the cyan and they're not really going. They don't go well together. So text fill yellow is not the right option. So let me say, what about aqua? Well, only aqua is gonna match with that. Okay, I'm just mixing colors here so that we can just, yeah. So this is our application. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. So there's our buttons and everything. So now I need to add functionality for the button. So the simple functionality that I'm gonna add is that it's gonna display these two things that are entered by the user. That's all that I'm gonna add. So before, you see, it's important to write this line before this line, especially before that line. So here I'm gonna add functionality for the button, right? So the name of my button is btn login dot set on action, and we're just gonna use lambdas and keep it short, right? So I'm gonna extract the text that I get from the text fields. How do I do that? So I'm gonna get the text, right? Store it into a string. So I'm gonna get the text, password. Okay, let's say email, right? Let's start with email. Email, I'm gonna say txt email, right? There's a .get text function which returns a string which gets the text from that text field. And I'm gonna trim it just in case the user has entered white space characters. And then string password is equals to txt password dot get text dot trim to remove white space characters from the beginning and the end at the end of the file. And then I'm gonna just say sys error to output the value. Email. Okay, I'm just gonna say your email is, then I'm gonna output again at the bottom. Underneath that, I'm gonna say your password is plus password, right? So that's all it's gonna do. Get the text from the text field, trim it to remove any white space characters, and then store it into a variable, but then display it. That's all it does. So let's enter information here. Let's say the information that I'm entering, my email is test123@gmail.com, right? And then my password is hello world at 123. And then when I click the button here, there we go. There's the text and there's the password. Obviously, when you get to the basic understanding of passwords and everything, you understand the importance of not saving password in plain text. You need to hash passwords. We'll get to that in a later stage if we need to get to that, but I don't think you guys will. Okay, I think you might. I think second semester, yeah, when you learn computer networking. So yeah, that's a bit about JavaFX. It's quite a lot. There's different ways to display this thing. There's different tools to use. I just use a border pane. There's also something you call a VBox, HBox. So what we could do, right? Thing is, I'm seeing the session now. It's becoming too long. So it's fine. Maybe we can do it in another session. Like talk about VBox, HBox, all those other ones. Remember, HBox is basically putting them in a horizontal. So you see this labels, all the rows, we can store them into its own pane called in HBox. And these things here, we can also store it in their own things using VBox, because VBox basically represents in terms of columns. HBox it represents in terms of rows. So one row would be an HBox, can be stored in one thing in HBox. So yeah. Thanks for watching. I hope that clarified a bit about JavaFX. There's a lot in JavaFX. I can't cover everything. I can't. I possibly can't. It's impossible. There's a lot. There's a lot. You can even add databases. It's a lot. So it's quite a lot of information involved. So yeah, that's it for today's session. I'll upload the files and everything under the description.